This is the second episode of the self-employment series, and this one will be all about paperwork, administrative tasks, basically just starting out with a business. And it might take me a little bit longer to put it all together because there are quite a few nuances I have to consider, but it's okay. The plan for today is I just attended this workshop on how to start your business in Finland, and I have a few action items on my to-do list as a result of it. So I will need to reach out to a few people, and then I will need to work on my business plan because you have to have it if you want to apply for a grant. It's not big money, but it's something. So I'm planning to do that, and it's quite a bit of an exercise because you need to plan all your marketing and sales activities, and you need to have all the calculations ready. So yes, it might take me also a little bit of time. But first, we're going to prepare some lunch. Also, for your information, this is what 12:30 looks like. It's pretty dark, isn't it? Let's take a close-up, actually. Ta-da! It's not the time of the sunset yet, but it's already quite dark. Or I should rather say that it just doesn't get bright at all. Or I mean, when it's not cloudy, then we get a little bit of sunlight. Otherwise, it looks like this. Very depressing, to put it mildly. I had to pause the video unexpectedly because I started working and I just got carried away, and before I knew it, it was already evening and I didn't make any clips. So sorry about that, but we're here now so we can continue our discussion. And the last time I saw you, I mean, for you it won't make any difference, but the last time I saw you, we talked about these financial calculations and preparing my business plan and applying for a startup grant. So let me talk a little bit more about these things. Initially, I planned to rely exclusively on my own funding. So I have my emergency fund, and I have there 5 months worth of my expenses. Then on top of that, I have this startup fund, which I was planning to use to start up my own business, and it is 3 months worth of my expenses. Then I still have one more paycheck from my former employer. So technically, I was all covered for 4 months. And after that, I planned to already onboard some clients and work with that. But I thought about it a little bit more. And then I realized that I've been paying taxes for quite a few years. And I know that in Finland, the overall, the compound tax rate is over 50%. It's, I think, 56.5 or something like that. So you can imagine that I paid more than half of my salary in taxes. And this grant I'm talking about, it's not even that much money. It's 700 euros, a little bit more, 700 euros per month. And you also have to pay taxes of it. So you end up with 500 to 600 euros on your bank account, which is not much, and its only purpose is to prevent you from burning all of your savings at once. So after considering all pros and cons and talking to other freelancers, I decided to give it a shot and apply for the startup grant. After all, if they decide that I don't meet the requirements, they just won't give me money. I don't lose anything either way. As I already said, in order to apply for the startup grant, you need to submit your business plan and this spreadsheet with all the calculations. You're supposed to have there a financial statement, then the cash flow statement, profitability calculations, sales volume calculations, and something else. I remember that I had 5 tabs in total. That's what I've been working on for the past few days. I remember I said that it would be a few hours exercise. I haven't even started working on my business plan yet, and I hope that this won't take long because it doesn't require calculations. It just requires, I guess, common sense. But the calculations part, I spent way more time than I initially planned to spend on it. I worked on it the entire Tuesday. I spent like 6 or 7 hours writing everything down, and I also spent 2 or 3 hours on it today. It took me so long for a few reasons. The first one, I haven't used Excel for a while. I mean, of course, I have used it as an in-house marketer. So I used it for tracking marketing campaigns or for pulling the data from different tools and piling it all up in one document just to have this nice picture. But I haven't used the key functions of Excel, like using formulas and not structuring data, but I guess just calculating different calculations. I haven't used it to make any calculations, and that's why it took me a little bit longer, because I was manually inputting data and I had this hiccup, meaning that it took me a while before I remembered how to use these basic Excel functions. The other reason is I am not entirely sure of how to calculate expenses. I understand that it's still the first draft and I will have this meeting with a business advisor. By the way, I haven't talked about it, but before I apply for the startup grant, so I'm going to have a meeting with a business advisor. I booked this meeting to go through my business plan and my calculations to make sure everything is in order. Anyway, so I realized that this is just the first draft and I will talk to a professional who will guide me through all these calculations and help me adjust them where necessary. But I still want to fill in as much as I can and try to be as accurate as possible. But naturally, there are quite a few questions for me in that area. For example, I am planning to work from home, so I will be a freelancer, so I don't really need an office or a warehouse or anything of that sort, so I will be working from home. And then I'm thinking, should I calculate my rent as part of the expenses and extract it from the revenue before I withdraw my salary? Because then my income tax will be different. Or should I leave my rent out of these calculations and apply for tax deduction instead, based on the fact that I will be working remotely most of the time? Basically, is my rent part of business or individual expenses? I don't know. I know that I will figure these things out in due time, but for now, it's incredibly confusing, and it is also frustrating because it takes me a lot of time to research these things and make up my mind. And finally, there is taxes, and taxes make everything 10 times more complicated. First of all, there is very little transparency on how these taxes are calculated. When I Google online what would be the income tax based on a certain annual salary, it shows me a percentage. But I know from my personal experience, I know for a fact that what I will pay in taxes will be still higher than the percentage I can see online. Additionally, it's also quite confusing as to how this whole thing is structured. For example, if I want to calculate my pension tax, by the way, just for you to know, I will have to pay VAT from the services I will be selling, then I will have to pay pension tax, and then I will have to pay income tax. And if I have any profit left after that, I will also have to pay the profit tax. So that's quite a lot. But that's just for you to know that it is quite a complicated system with a lot of moving parts that practically depend on each other. But anyway, what I was saying, if I want to calculate, let's say, my pension tax, I will have to know my income for the whole year because it's calculated based off of that. But in order to know my income for the whole year, I will have to extract my pension tax from the revenue. So in order to know my pension tax, I need to know my income, and in order to know my income, I need to know my pension tax. And it gets quite confusing. All in all, it took me quite a lot of time to make all these calculations and also make sure that they match, because all these different apps have to deliver the same story. Otherwise, it's odd, and it also doesn't give the right impression about your business if you have one set of numbers in the cash flow statement and then a different set of numbers in the profitability statement. So yes, it was quite a bit of an exercise. It was, however, quite interesting to learn more about these things, how expenses are calculated, how taxes are calculated. It It was also a little bit sad to see that even as a small business owner, and I will have an incredibly small annual income for the first year, I will still have to pay almost 40% in taxes and other contributions, but it is what it is. That's what happens when you live in Nordics. What I'm trying to say, even though my business might not succeed, I still find this information quite valuable. It's still good for general business intelligence to know how these things are calculated. But for now, I'm gonna take a breather. I'm gonna head out and go for a walk because the sun is out and it doesn't happen often these days, so I want to experience it myself. And I will see you later. I just had a meeting with my business advisor, or it's not really my personal business advisor, it's more like the state's business advisor, and it was quite an interesting experience. The person, so they were very knowledgeable. They gave me a lot of information, a lot of feedback on my business planning calculations, and by the way, I will have to adjust them in a moment because I just want to adjust them. And as I said, I'm applying for this startup grant, so I want to make sure that everything is in order. But anyway, a very smart person, but were they all over the place? It was so funny. So we were talking about my estimated revenue for the next, actually for 2025. So we're talking about my estimated revenue for 2025, and my approach is always that, you have to be realistic, things take time. Well, maybe, if I'm lucky, I have one retainer and then 2 clients that are more on a project basis. And this person was like, no, you have to have 16 customers per month. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't even write that much on a monthly basis. They were saying I will have a 6-figure salary in my first year, and I will have to apply to this different type of entrepreneurship that's for bigger companies, and that if I don't have clients, if I don't make a 6-figure salary, it just means that I should spend more time on looking for clients, and unless my calendar is full, I should keep looking for clients. And I mean, it was very amusing. I'm not saying that this person was, absolutely wrong. Of course, nothing of that sort. And there was a point to what they were saying, like where to look for clients and how it is actually it's a lot of grind, I guess, in the first few months of entrepreneurship. It was just a very amusing experience. Speaking of clients, I actually already have one project and I'm working on it. Well, not right now, but I'm going to work on it tomorrow or sometime next week. As I'm filming this video, we are approaching Christmas holiday, so naturally that will disrupt my workflow. But anyway, I have a project. It's small, but it's a project nonetheless. I thought I would have no work in January and I would have to tap into my own investments. I didn't expect I would have any clients. And now that I have this project, even though it's small, it's very nice. I only had to check how to arrange the bureaucratic side of things because, as I said, I'm applying for the startup grant, and they actually they want to see that you have no business prior to the application. So I can start working, but I cannot send out invoices. So I'll just need to contact my contact person and tell them that I will send my invoice at the end of January, beginning of February, but I think it will be fine. But yeah, on the client side, we already have one project in January. It's small, but it's fine. And then one bigger project in February. It's a few thousand euros. I mean, it sounds like it's big money, but it's only one project, and it's also, this type of projects only happen once a year. So, now that I've been thinking about my own salary on a yearly basis and not on a monthly one, I realized that the invoices that freelance writers send out are not even that expensive, because if you extract all the expenses and then you also see like, okay, yeah, this is a big project, but let's say all the money that the person receives from this project is supposed to last them for 2 months, then it's no longer that high. I mean, the expense, it's no longer that high. In any case, I'm rambling, and what I just wanted to say is that I have 2 projects secured already, which is nice. One I'm working on, the other one will commence mid-February, beginning of the February, we'll see. And then I have a list of potential customers. So I talked about my ideal customer profile, ICP, with this business advisor, and they recommended me a website where I can search for companies that are similar to my ICP. And in my case, it's startups or scale-ups, because the first one doesn't usually have a marketer in-house, and they prefer working with freelancers because they might not have enough budget to hire a person in-house, but they definitely have enough to, have somebody on a retainer, or even on a project or basis, or even a retainer. And then scale-ups, these companies, they usually have a whole marketing team in-house, but because they're growing, their needs are also much bigger, so they might still be looking for some extra content support. So that's what I'm gonna do. I don't think today, because actually in 1 hour, in 1 hour, I'm meeting my friend. I'm actually meeting my friend in 2 hours, but I still need to commute. So we're meeting in 2 hours, which leaves me not that much time to work on my stuff, but I still want to do a little bit of prep work. And then I'm going to write a list of action items that I don't have time for today, but that I'm going to pick up when I get back to work. The last thing I wanted to talk about is time. I'm going to publish a separate video about our time perception and how we can slow down time. But for now, I noticed, as I switched to first unemployment and now to self-employment, how often we underestimate the amount of time it will take to complete a task. I never thought about it while I was working in corporate. I just felt vaguely burned out all the time, and I always had this brain fog, and it never occurred to me that this brain fog, this anxiety, this desire to scroll on my phone was simply due to anxiety I had because of how many tasks I had on my to-do list. I've been obsessing over tracking my own time now, and I noticed that unfortunately things take longer. So now I have to be very careful with my priorities. I have to choose what I focus on. I cannot do all these 10 different things at once, or even in the span of a day. I can only do 1, maybe 2, if I'm lucky. And yes, it's a little bit sad that you can't do as much as you think, but at the same time, when I started being strategic with my focus time, I noticed that, well, first of all, my attention span is much better than I ever thought. I always knew that my attention span was rather good. I never struggled with getting into this flow state. I never struggled with focusing on a task. It's actually much harder for me to get out of this flow state than gain. But still, I always thought that my limit was focusing on a task for like 2.5 hours and taking a small break in between. Now that I've been following my own schedule, I realized that I can focus on a task for 5 to 6 hours. I still need 1 break in between. I usually use that for lunch, but still, I only need 1 break, and then I can focus for almost 3 hours at a time, which is crazy, and I never thought it is even possible, but apparently it is. I also noticed that the outcomes of this hyper-focused time are much better. Not only the results of the actual work that I do are better because I can be in the zone for a certain task and I can just work on it from start to finish, which works for me. It doesn't have to work for everyone, but it works for me. And yeah, okay, I'm just gonna give a little rant. I just noticed that I cannot switch between different tasks because it takes me a lot of energy to get out of this certain mindset that a task requires and then get into a totally different mindset for a different task. So I prefer really getting into this hyper-focused state, working on a task until its completion, and then move on. So not only did I get better work outcomes with this approach, but also my mental health has improved. I used to feel tired all the time. I would always be sleepy. I would always have this strange fatigue. I thought maybe it's the weather because I am prone to mood fluctuations due to the weather, but turns out my workflow was just not optimized. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm, super active because it's winter after all, and no one is active in winter, but I have sufficient levels of energy to get me through the day. And I also feel optimistic. I feel positive. I don't get that anxious as I used to. I don't get as tired as I used to. I don't feel like time is flying by. So, all in all, this small realization about underestimating time led to significant changes in my own routine that brought me actually positive results. So if you've been feeling weirdly burned out and slightly anxious, maybe it's time to reassess your schedule. And with that, I'm gonna post this video for now, and I'll see you when I'll see you. Hi again, it is already the 9th of January 2025, so Happy New Year, I guess. And I figured that I still want to say a few things before finishing this video. Initially, I planned to make me applying for business ID the culmination of this video and the end of it, but I realized that it will increase the production times for this video unnecessarily, and I mean, this video is already over 20 minutes and I don't want to make it any longer. I can always talk about all this stuff in later episodes of Self-Employment Diaries. But yeah, there are still a few things I want to talk about. And the first one refers to the startup grant, to my application for a startup grant. So I made a mistake. I didn't check the requirements beforehand, and it requires you to have this certificate that proves that you're tax debt free. I'm not sure whether I'm using the right term, but basically this certificate should say that you have paid all of your taxes on time and everything is fine with my taxes. I have paid my taxes dutifully. I just didn't know that it takes 3 business days to deliver this certificate. So until I receive it, I cannot apply for a startup grant. And that's why I haven't done it yet, actually. And that's why I haven't filmed myself doing it. Once the decision on my application is made, I can apply for a business ID. And once I have that, I can notify the pension fund and let them know that I'm now self-employed and I will pay my pension taxes separately. It's actually a very good thing here. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here you have this time period of 4 months to reach out to the tax authorities, to the pension fund, and let them know that you have switched to self-employment. In my opinion, it's very good because it reduces the amount of stress and the amount of pressure that might be put on you otherwise, because you don't have to worry about having everything ready at the same time, because we know how it usually goes. If they say that, okay, you need to have your business ID and your whatever mention in the pension roster at the same time, then you're like, oh my god, but what if I have one ready before the other? Anyway, I'm just rambling. The point is that it's very convenient that you have this 4 months to get your papers in order. I really like that. And then I will need to find an accountant and open up a new bank account for my business. I initially planned to go with my bank because they actually provide accounting services, but I've also heard good things about other providers of accounting services. By the way, it's very common here, and I think it might be a worldwide phenomena, to start with an accounting app. So it's kind of like an online accountant. And then, especially if you are a tiny business, especially if you're a small business owner, then it's also quite common to switch to start doing your own accounting. If you don't, if your expenses and profit, if your debit and credit are self-evident, then I think you can do your own accounting. At least that's my plan. And with that, I think I'm going to finish this video. I hope you found it entertaining at least. And as always, let me know what you think in the comment section. I always look forward to your comments, and it's always very exciting for me to engage in conversations with you. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, suggestions, let me know them in the comment section. And otherwise, I wish you a great day and I will see you next time. Bye bye.